So, we're going to Paul Revere's Ride. So, what do you guys think of the title?
I think the title is very little. It's describing Paul Revere's ride, and Paul is like the main character, I guess, in this poem, so that's why he's first.
Yeah. American hero, like they said, romanticism, there was always going to be that a common person was made into a hero.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And the title, The Landlord's Tale, shows that it's kind of like in a story format.
Yes. Okay, should we break it up into stanzas?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, so who wants to read the first stanza?
I'll read it.
Okay.
So I read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Just the first stanza.
Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive. Who remembers that famous day and year?
I think the stanza is like setting up the background and it draws in the reader's attention.
Yeah.
It's very much in like a story format, like Once Upon a Time, like one of those.
Like a cozy.
Yes.
One thing that really like drew me in was the rhyming at the end. Here, Revere, 5, alive, and then year again. It kind of made the stanza flow better and sound more like narrative.
Cohesive.
Agree.
I also think that like it's gonna be told to children, so because like we're gonna have like the point of view of the children. That makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we can do the second stanza?
Yeah.
I'll go.
Okay.
He said to his friend, the British march by land or sea from the towns of night, hanging lantern aloft from the belfry arch of the Norwich church tower as the sea light. 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, and I ride upon the shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and armed. Then he said, good night, and a muffled oar silently rowed on to the Charleston shore, just as the moon arose above the bay, over the bay, where swinging wide at her morning sleigh, the Somerset British man of war, the phantom ship, which mast and spar across the moonlight prison bar, and a huge black hulk that magnified by its own reflection in the tide.
I thought like the description of like the British coming was very intense because it's like the moon was like being like imprisoned, so it's like that's how like big and hunky. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I said it alluded to their the confinement and their fear because probably like about to go storm the beach in that area. So calling it prison and a huge black hulk kind of made it sound like very scary, dark.
I think it also focuses a lot on Paul Revere because he's saying like when you go set this alarm, I'll go set this alarm and we'll go tell everybody, or I'll go tell everybody. So I think it focuses on him a lot.
Well, I was gonna say, wasn't Paul Revere the one that said the British are coming?
Yeah.
And then he also, the part that says 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, I think that was like something famous that he said too. So it kind of makes him very like
Heroic.
The
yeah, heroic.
Yeah, very romantic.
Oh, the common man.
Yeah.
I think when it says across the moon like a prison bar, like the bottom of the stanza, it's like the ships are. My annotation was like, hold on. Obviously, this is focusing on just saying like the British are bad and they're coming and hurt us. Okay. Should we do the next stanza?
I guess I'll read. Meanwhile, his friends through alley and street wanders and watches with eager ears, till the silence around him he hears the muscular man at barrack door, sounds of arms and trampled feet, and measured tread of
Grenadiers?
I guess that works, yeah. Marching down to their boats on the shore.
I think in the first two lines where it says like alley and street and wonders and watches and eager ears, like that's a lot of like alliteration and assonance.
Yeah.
So I just like when it says like alley and street and then wonders and watches, I think that kind of like makes you feel like it's kind of like just raining a little bit and like you're waiting for something to happen. Like it builds like
Anxious.
suspense.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think imagery was also used like kind of like show what the soldiers like went through like at war when the text starts with the mustard man.
I agree.
I said it, the stanza specifically helped build up the suspense of the scene in order, like, you know, making me think, oh gosh, they're about to come and things about to happen, because for the most part, people know about Paul Revere's ride and what happened, so it's kind of like that, oh, I know what's going to happen, and it's getting close, and it kind of, you know, is very suspenseful.
I agree.
I'll read. Then he climbed the tower of the old church by the wooden stairs with stuffy tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from the perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shade. By the trembling ladder, steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, we paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead, in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear like a sentinel's tread. The watchful night went as it went, creeping along from tent to tent, and seeming to whisper, all is well. A moment, only he feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead, for suddenly all his thoughts began on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and flows on the rising tide of the bridge of boats.
Okay.
I guess like starting from the line that says masses and moving shapes of shade, and like I guess that imagery below it, I think it just like helps like you have all that suspense built up, and then like you can tell like the whole town is like solemn and quiet, and the only thing you hear is like Paul Revere's like horse or whatever you say, like the sound of him moving. So I think it kind of like sets the scene a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's also emphasized like when it was so quiet that just his movements startled the pigeons.
Yeah.
And the wind being personified as like a helpful eye or a helpful friend to Paul Revere, I think it shows how like everybody is like everything's centered around him. Like everybody's trying to help him or showcase him and what he's doing.
Yeah. I think the whole poem honestly is using a lot of imagery to set the scene and the mood and the tone, and it's very obvious.
Yes. I can read the next stanza. So it's long. Meanwhile, patient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side. Now gazed at the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower, the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle, he turns, but lingers and gazes till full on his sight. A second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles and passing a spark. Struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet. That was all, and yet through the gloom and light, the beat of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic meeting the ocean tides, and under the alders that skirt its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides.
When I was talking about it says, the fate of the nation is riding that night, it kind of just paints Paul Revere as like the hero. That's all it's saying is he is the reason they are alive. And then I also found like a shift within a hurry of hooves in the village street where like it used to be all calm and like anxious. Now it's like sporadic and like everything's happening right now.
I think a lot of the alliteration also adds to the like anxiety of like it's happening right now, and I think that helps kind of have the reader feel what is happening at the moment.
I think it's like now slept on sand and like now on that like ledge. It was like just shows how fast it kind of was, because you go from like the sand and then you go from here and it's just like whoa, you're there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It seems like everything is meant to go from like soft and waiting to instant act, like to get you to feel the action, the instantness, and how important this is, and you know, to really feel what Paul Revere is feeling during that time. I'll read it.
Okay.
It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down.
I feel like there isn't too much to get from this. It kind of just like describes like the scene he was, like the scene while riding to the towns.
I feel like it was really intense because like you could hear the crowing of the rooster, and then you can hear the bark of the farmer's dog, and just these little sounds that I think add to the intensity of the scene.
I think it kind of just shows like how much adrenaline he was like faced with every time that his senses increased, like so he'll hear all that stuff.
I can read the next one. It was one by village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting house windows, blank and bare, gazed at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work that they would look upon.
I guess it's talking about like this foreshadowing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the fight.
So it felt very eerie, kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Like everything was looking at him in this moment.
Let's read the next one. Okay. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of the bird among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. When one was safe in a sleepless bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be laying dead, here's for the British musket ball. I took that like towards the bottom, like if you weren't paying attention during that time, like listening to all of yours, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he describes like the nature, like he heard the beating of the flock and then blowing over the meadow ground. I said it kind of shifts the tone a little bit, like back to kind of that peaceful, but still like kind of busy.
Anxious.
It's like kind of like calm before the storm type of thing.
I think like too that it's like amazing showing that like this comes from nature.
I mean, and that's the romanticism of it, is romanticizing the nature, and then of course the common man in this very important, I guess, and you know, very suspenseful and anxious and action-y type story.
Yeah. I'll read the next one. You know the rest, and the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again, under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load.
The farmers were brutal. They fought
Yeah.
back.
Again, the common man being the hero.
Yeah. I kind of felt like he was like, especially the last line where he was like, and only pausing to fire and load. He was definitely showing like the busyness of the scene, but I also think he was kind of like implying that it was like kind of like mindless almost. Like he obviously disapproves of it.
Yeah, I mentioned the shift from like being in the action to again being like the narrator of the story and saying you know the rest and the books you have read pretty much. and like he focused more on the ride itself, or like the thing leading up to the fight, pretty much, instead of the actual fight itself.
Yeah.
As if that weren't the important part, but the part that, you know, Paul Revere actually did go on this heroic ride.
Yeah.
Again, showcasing Paul Revere as the hero. Someone gonna do the last one?
So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For born on the night wind of the past, through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness, in peril and need, the people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoof beats of the steed, and the midnight message of Paul Revere.
I think this last stanza is really important because it repeats one of the beginning stanzas to every Middlesex village and farm, and I think it's just like summing up, like everybody's gonna know Paul Revere for forever.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard it now, this is only just a little bit of portion, but everybody's heard of him.
I said it that it almost kind of like presented the theme of the poem, which I said was to be brave even if things are, you know, seem terrifying and scary, because the whole poem really was talking about, you know, the suspense and the anxiousness and of it all, knowing what's going to happen, the bloody fight, but that, you know, Paul Revere's braveness is what saved the people and, you know, was the most important thing, and because he was so brave.
Yeah, I said the same thing as my thing.
I also noticed that like it shows like how the author really like views Paul Revere, because people can be like, oh, he's awful, but it really just shows how much he thought Paul Revere's ride was like important
Yeah.
to him in America.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first poem.
Should I stop it?
Yeah.
Yeah.